Welcome back, beautiful people. We're recording this session. Today, we're going to take fragments. Today, we're going to take fragments. So a fragment is a big part of our test. Expect fragments to appear with any sort of punctuation-based question. So let's begin with what is a fragment. A fragment is a broken sentence, right? A fragment is a broken sentence. When we begin solving a question and we find in that question commas or semicolons or dashes or colons or periods or comma conjunctions or comma fanboys, when we find any of these in the answer choices, your first job is to identify the independent idea. That's your first job. This is the most critical step. Why do you do this? So that way you know what we need in our answer choice. So the first thing is you identify the independent idea. You ask yourself, well, where is the subject and the verb of the sentence? And is it complete? Well, you're going to tell me, well, why do we do this? I'll give you an example, right? I'll type out an example instead of writing one out, right? Muhammad came to class today, but the others did not, right? Again, you're reading a sentence and you're going to find in your exam, obviously, this is the underlined portion or the blank portion if you're DSAT. So when you're reading a sentence and you see, for example, a comma, you see a semicolon, you see any sort of punctuation, your first job is to identify the independent idea. And so where is the independent idea here? Well, Muhammad came to class. We have our subject and verb complete idea. The others did not. We have our subject and verb independent idea. This makes a difference when we're dealing with punctuation, because if we have one independent idea, we use a comma. If we have two, we use a semicolon, period, or comma fanboys. But that's not the point today. Today's point is to work with fragments. And I tell you this, or begin with the independent idea, because you have to understand a fragment is a broken sentence. Or we can also say a fragment is an incomplete sentence. So how or why can identifying fragments help us? Well, fragment is always wrong. Always. Always. When I tell my students, when you're dealing with punctuation questions, look for fragments in the answer choices. Fragments are easy to identify. Well, what does that mean? With fragments, you'll have something like a subject, comma, verb, a verb, comma, object, or an adjective, comma, noun. Well, these are all fragments. These are always wrong. Well, again, what does that mean? For example, Muhammad, comma, came to class. Or for example, Muhammad came, comma, to class. Or Muhammad, or example, this student, comma, Muhammad came to class. These are all fragments. And this is why it's important to identify where are the subjects and verbs. So for example here, subject, comma, verb, fragment. Verb, comma, object, fragment. Adjective, comma, noun, fragment. These are always 100% incorrect. Well, how else can fragments appear? When we're dealing with comma, that. When we're dealing with comma preposition. Or when we're dealing with a dependent clause. These are three more types of fragments. Well, again, can we see some examples? Of course. The car, comma, that is over there was stolen. The car that is comma over there was stolen. The car over there. You see these three examples. These are all fragments. Answer in the first one, comma that. Usually when you see a comma that, it is incorrect automatically. We can't put a comma before that. Or again, comma preposition. You see that? Comma preposition. Fragment. Or it's dependent, meaning there is either no subject or no verb. For a sentence to be complete, it needs to have a subject, it needs to have a verb. And the final form of fragments are called a gerund fragment. Well, what is a gerund fragment? A gerund fragment happens when you replace the verb with ing. Well, what does that mean? Look at these two examples. Yusuf came late to class. Yusuf coming late to class. Like we said, a sentence, to be a sentence, must have a subject and a verb, like this, correct. The second one is incorrect. Why? We have a subject, but we have no verb. ing words are not verbs. This is Fragments. Jump into the practice. This is Mr. Sema. You can learn anything. Mr. Sema, out.